What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. As you can tell, my voice is still working to get back to normal. My recovery is coming along pretty well, but for some reason, talking for an extended period of time kind of wears my voice down. So this won't be a super long episode, but I thought it was important now to finally break down the most anticipated top 10 from 2022's action figure line of the year. Of course, for me, that's G.I. Joe Classified series. And there were so many good choices for this. So many great figures that came out. I don't feel like for the most part there were too many bad options. So this top 10 could literally go across the board. I know lots of people have broken down their top 10s of the Classified series. And I don't think there's a wrong way to go with this. I mean, my number 10 could be somebody's number 1, and I really wouldn't argue. There's just so many great figures, so much that came out in 2022, some of which I didn't get. So let me explain right away. There's no Zorana, Dusty, or Crimson Guard on my list because I didn't get them yet. I was hoping for a sale, didn't come. Kind of put a few down for my Christmas list, but they didn't come on that end either. So they're going to be in that nebulous stage of in contention for 2022. I'll probably have them on my list for 2023 figures of the year, just depending on how it plays out. But I also wanted to break down a couple honorable mentions. First up is the Tiger Force Outback. And when that figure was revealed, it looked so cool. And I was really like, no, wait till the original Classic Colors version comes out. But this figure looks so great. It's so cool. I've seen it in person in the stores. And it looks every bit as good in my hand in the Target aisles as it did in the prototypes, in the prototype reveals from the Hasbro team on those live streams. The figure looks great. I can't wait to get it in the Classic Colors, but I really felt that this was a figure worthy of honorable mention, even though I didn't get it. Even though I'm holding out for the Classic Colors version, I feel like if you didn't care about the colors, this Outback is definitely one of the top 5 figures of this Classified series from 2022. It looks that good. And I'm sure that the Classic Colors version will be really high up on my list come this time next year. My other honorable mention is the Gungho Retro version. This is the version of Gungho that I really wanted all along. Back when that first one came out with Series 2, we were still in that phase of, okay, we're modernizing G.I. Joe. We're staying away from the real American hero designs for the most part. We're tweaking some. We're adding a lot of tech. But Gungho was one with those turquoise colors. We're going to tone down and make more realistic. And I was fine-ish with that original version. But when they revealed the retro one, I was like, this is the Gungho that I wanted all along. The only reason he doesn't make my top 10 list is because he still has that slightly too big melon. His head's a little bit too big. But if it was just a little bit smaller, shrunken down just a bit, it would have made my cut for sure, because that's the Gungho I wanted. And he is definitely my honorable mention because he looks that good. And it's really cool having him in his Classic Colors hanging out with the rest of the Joe Squad. So Gungho Retro version is my honorable mention alongside the Tiger Force Outback version. Now let's get on to my official top 10 list. Coming in at number 10 is Dr. Mindbender. And the only reason he's this far down the list is because of those stains on his shoulders from that cape. I thought the cape could have been tailored just a little bit neater, a little bit tighter. It kind of flares up and it doesn't quite sit properly the way I want it to. But otherwise, man, Dr. Mindbender looks so great. From the monocle, the buff, super muscular physique he's got rocking, the handlebar mustache, the pants, the details on the boots. I mean, this is the 1986 Dr. Mindbender translated to 2022 sculpting levels. It's an amazing looking figure. And again, he's a little bit slightly lower on the list because of those QC problems, but also because he's in that deluxe presentation. And he really didn't need to be a deluxe price because he's basically a standard Classified series figure. I love the box. The artwork looks fantastic, but that does come with a price, and it's a little bit more than I really want to spend for a typical standard Classified series figure. He does come with some really awesome accessories, and they're fun. You can come up with all kinds of stories of what the heck Dr. Mindbender's doing next. But he's a really great figure, great sculpting, and absolutely needed to be on my top 10 list. Coming in at number 9 is Croc Master. And when I started doing this top 10, I wanted to focus on the character, on the figure. So even though it had a really cool accessory, like a air chariot or a crocodile, I wanted to focus on the figure because I didn't think it was fair and balanced to go, okay, this figure that has so much more stuff should be higher than another figure that just comes with a standard presentation. So for that reason, I am focusing on Croc Master, who looks fantastic, who looks phenomenal on his own. I'm just going to ignore the fact that he's got this amazing crocodile alongside him. But Croc Master looks great. The sculpting detail, getting that crocodile texture on his chest plate, that looks really cool. His mask, his helmet looks really amazing. That rebreather gives him that really dark, sinister look. He's got the big muscles hanging out, looking like he's been wrangling crocodiles for a while. He's got really cool accessories like that hook to hold Fiona's mouth open. So he's just really a well done figure. The sculpting, top notch. This is what you expect out of the Classified series line. And Croc Master was a figure I thought we would take a long time to get to, but Hasbro's really going kind of all over, knocking out characters from different years, different eras of the franchise. And I'm really glad they knocked out Croc Master because he shows what they can do with this line, what they can do in terms of accessories. I mean, that Fiona is a really impressive accessory and definitely worthy of a deluxe price because it's basically paying for two figures at once. And just a really good figure, great package, great deal. You can get them for $31, so it's even cheaper than buying two Classified series figures. But really outstanding work and definitely one of the highlights of 2022. My number 8 selection is Stalker, and I probably wanted Stalker to go up a little bit higher, and the only reason he's number 8 is because his camo pattern isn't as distinct and prominent as I would have liked, but otherwise, another great figure. One of the cool things with the Classified series, they're focusing on the original 13 and not kind of sweeping them to the back like, these are the boring original Joes. Let's focus on the cooler ones from 85, 86, 87 with those more distinct looks. What they've done is take those basic rain outfits, hype them up a little bit more, give them a lot of cool accessories to make them stand out, to make them flow in a line that has characters like Roadblock, Gunho, Flint, Lady J, Shipwreck, Lowlight, etc. coming down the pipe. And I think Stalker is a really great example of this. His beret is removable. They've added some cool details like that scar along the back side of his head. He's got the scarf piece. He's got all kinds of gear, lots of weapons, and to me, really looks like the lieutenant, the second in command of the Joe team, leading the squad alongside Hawk in the original incarnation of the Joe team. I love the expression, love the accessories, and like I said, the only thing I wish they had done was make his camo pattern a little bit more distinct so it could have a little bit more color in there. But otherwise, a really fantastic version of my main man Stalker. Coming in at number 7, two of my favorite Cobras, Tomax, Xamot, and for the slight changes, the slight tweaks that we've seen with the Classified series line, I really hope when they got announced, we weren't going to get too extreme of a departure from the original costumes because those are some of my favorites. And the Classified series team was like, yep, there's no real reason to switch these guys up. Their attire looks so good. Let's just go with what they've got. Let's update it for 2022. And we've got it. And these figures look great. They've got these tremendous head sculpts. Got the scarf card, of course, on Xamot. The hair looks good. I was looking back at the original figures and they've got this kind of crown piece hair sculpt. It doesn't look as cool as the package art. Definitely doesn't look as cool as how they did in the cartoon. And I think this version really captures them, makes them look cool. Of course, we've got the mirror pattern for their attires. And I always thought that was such a cool setup with these identical twins that look like mirror reflections of each other, minus Xamot's scar. And their accessories are cool. I do wish they came with that little skyhook grapple thing so they could just swoop around like they're in a circus or something, or carnival, as they fight the Joe team through wherever. And of course, the Crimson Guards en route. I don't know how many I'm going to army build of those guys, but they look great, so I'm figuring maybe 10 to flank the twins, 5 on each side. I think that's the way to go with it. But really excited to get Tomax and Xamot because we've got so many of the Cobra inner circle. Got Baroness, Mary Blood, Destro, Firefly, Storm Shadow, Zartan, and now we've got the Crimson Twins to join Dr. Mindbender, and of course, another couple members on my top 10 list for this year. But really excited to get these guys. Love the blue, the red, and the silver. Is exactly what I wanted from Tomax and Zaymont. And I think Hasbro really knocked those guys out. Number 6 was a very early release for 2022. It was the Alley Viper. And when they got revealed, I was like, wow, these guys look incredible. And one of the cool things of the Classified series line, they've taken these original designs and incorporated a few new tweaks to modernize it. And the Alley Viper is a great example of that. There's so many cool elements to the figure. The visor that goes up and down, the shield that you can put the gun in. That was one of my favorite things to do with those guys as I started posing and playing with them. Just putting the shield in, putting the gun in, and having them go as a squad against all my Joes. The Alley Vipers were a real problem for me because when I would see one, I'm like, okay, let's add this one to the collection. So they were a real easy army build for me, especially because when they came out way early in 2022, they were $19.99. So it was like, just buy another one. So I think I have maybe like 5 or 6 Alley Vipers. Maybe I'll get a few more because I really like that color scheme, the orange, the blue, and then just the different ways you can display them with their weapons, with all the guns they come with. You can have different looking looks for each Alley Viper. And I thought that was another key to them because it's great to have army builders. If you start giving them different guns and different ways to display them with the visors up and down, you can kind of mix up and match up the looks of those guys. So it's not just the same figure over and over again. And I really like that. Alley Vipers were one of my favorites. They just stood out. They look so cool. The colors, everything. They didn't go for a more realistic color scheme. They didn't go, let's do red and black. Let's do a blue and black. They just went, no, super orange, super blue. Terrorist group invading cities, neighborhoods at Cobra Commander's command. So Alley Viper is definitely one of my top 10 favorites of this year. Coming in at number 5 was the other line mate to the Alley Viper, the Cobra Bat. And the Bat was just as amazing as the Alley Viper. It had just a few more tweaks that put it a little bit ahead of it though. You had the different portrait with the shattered head sculpt, so it was like it was taking damage from the Joes, but because it's unstoppable killing robot, it's continuing to move forward, coming to advance and not stopping no matter how many times it gets shot up. Then they had the different body parts or the chest plates that were damaged, protected black and just wide open so you could see the inner workings. I know a lot of people were thinking, why didn't they just do a transparent one like back in the day? That would have been cool, but it wasn't as essential as some other parts that I think were more important to add. And then, of course, we got all the different hand attachments, the flamethrower, the machine gun, the hook. Then it had a pistol, too, so you had so many display options. And the backpack was great because it could plug in all those different hand accessories, hand attachments, and it was so much fun putting these guys in an army coming after my Joes. Because that was a fun thing about the Bats, because you had like 1 or 3 going against 5 or 10 Joes, and it was somehow a fair fight. So really love the Bat, and I just thought they were so much fun to army build. And they had the cool Python Patrol version of the Bat. The Crimson Bat is coming as well, but for me, that original classic colors Bat is definitely the way to go. I probably have about 7 of those. Maybe want to get 8, maybe 10, just because they look so much. They're so cool to pose, and they're so fun to have, like as a mass army of killer robots. So definitely the Cobra Bat was one of my top 5 favorites of the G.I. Joe Classified series from 2022. Number 4 was Storm Shadow. And when the line was originally revealed and debuted, we saw this very modern version of Storm Shadow. And I know a lot of people were like, I don't know about this look for him. Let's go old school traditional. Then there were some who were like, well, that new modern look is kind of cool. For me, I was definitely more of the, let's ease back to a slightly more traditional look, which we got with this figure. And it was well worth getting the Arctic Storm Shadow first to get this version, the more classic style. There's a few new elements to it. They got the gauntlets where you can see the wraps that go around his wrists. So it's kind of like this hidden thing of where it says Arashikage tattoo on his wrist. It's hidden beneath this gauntlet and the wraps, but you know it's there. And it's got the hood that you can raise up. It doesn't look too silly and too oversized. He's got his bow and arrow set up with that compound bow. He's got swords. He's got a great head sculpt and that all stark white really makes him stand out because it's a bad guy in white, kind of going against the norm for how it was normally portrayed in TVs, movies, etc. before Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. So he really looked cool, all the accessories, and it just felt like this was one of the pinnacles of the classified series in general, not just in 2022, but since the line got started. And I'm really happy, really pleased with how he turned out. The only catch was they revealed a retro version which dumps the gauntlets and just has the wrists, and it's like, ooh, I kind of want that version too, but I think this one is good enough for me, because as much as I want just a classic wristband, I kind of like this modern updated take on Storm Shadow's outfit. It has some new tweaks, but it's not so far departure from the original look that it's like, this isn't for me. So I'm glad we got this kind of middle ground version. And again, I think he's one of the best versions, one of the best figures we've seen so far in the classified series line. Number 3 is one of Storm Shadow's frequent opponents in the cartoon, Spirit Ironite. And every aspect of this figure is such a great update from the original design. The head sculpt is great. We've seen Hasbro struggle in terms of portraits of Native American characters in the past with Forge, Warpath, and Thunderbird. Spirit's head sculpt is amazing. He looks young. He doesn't look like he's 70 years old hanging out with these young Joes. He looks young. He's got the hair coming down a little bit, so he's not, so prim and proper like we see so often with portrayals of Native Americans in movies. He looks cool. He's got a little bit of an edge to him. They modernize him, so he's more of a sniper now, and I like that. They've got all the classic elements to his outfit, minus the skirt piece and the furry tops to his boots. I don't really miss him all that much. I think we got a really great version of Spirit. Got the little gauntlet so he can have Freedom hang over on his forearm without scratching him up. Of course, we got Freedom, which is also really cool. Freedom can move his wings up, and we've got him hanging out ready to fly, and he can sit on a perch on Spirit's backpack. So they thought of all these different ways to display Freedom. I really love the way that they just incorporated that, because it wasn't just a thing of, here's Freedom, and he's just hanging loose. He can actually fit and hang next to Spirit and work alongside him, or he can go flying in the air too. So I really love the way they did that. His accessories are great, and again, his colors, the classic look to Spirit. You don't have to update too much, but it's just like a classic, clean version of Spirit, and I really love how he turned out. Definitely one of my favorites for this line in general. So that's Spirit, number 3 on my top 10 2022 list. Number 2 is Serpentor, and he was back and forth from my number 1. I feel like that happens a lot. Like, okay, why should this figure be number 1? Why should this one be number 2? And the main reason Serpentor is number 2 is because not everyone can get him, because he was up on Pulse.com or Hasbro Pulse, and it was really hard for a lot of people to get. I still feel like they need to open up the window so people can get him, get a third, fourth crack at him, because this is an essential figure in the classified series in the G.I. Joe mythos, and everyone should be able to get a chance to get him. But for those of us who did, we got an amazing figure, great head sculpt, so much detail put on the figure. That chest armor, just the whole armor is great. The cape actually has a snake pattern. That looks outstanding, and you can just tell all the love and attention they put into this figure. It shows off on every detail. That's not including the Sky Cherry, because I didn't want to include that because that wasn't fair, but the figure itself is good. I really wish they had been able to include another portrait with Serpentor as well, just because he's a character that should have a gritted teeth, yelling expression. Like the calm, neutral one that we have is fine, but he really just demands, or commands, I should say, an extra head sculpt with more emotion and intensity and just straight up frustration and anger as the Joes are destroying all of his carefully calculated plans. But Serpentor is a really great figure. The paint job is outstanding. All the detail is fantastic, and he's super big too. He's not like the same size as Dr. Mindbender or Cobra Commander. He towers over them, which is good because that kind of gives more to that whole creating this clone body and I'm going to make him a little bit more impressive than a normal person. He shouldn't look eye to eye with Cobra Commander. He should be towering over him as a real Cobra Emperor. And I thought they did a really great job with Serpentor. And that's why he's number 2 on my top 10 2022 list. All right, so my last one. Now, you probably know who it is at this point. It's a figure when he was revealed. I was so excited because I didn't think we were going to be able to actually get him in the line. We saw the Valorverse version, and I assumed that that meant we were not going to see one Sergeant Slaughter appear in the Classified Series line. And I know there are more impressive figures just from the sculpt, like Storm Shadow, Spirit, Serpentor, but for me, Sergeant Slaughter was such a cool, integral part of the G.I. Joe mythos. Actually having him in the Classified Series and such a great figure really made him my number 1 choice because I didn't think we were going to get him. I thought he was going to be tied up with all these different licenses, and it was just going to be a thing of, oh, sorry, I know you really wanted this guy, but he's just tied up with other licenses, and he can't come over to Hasbro at this point. And I thought I was going to have to settle, get the Valorverse version. I had tried the Ultimate Edition of Sergeant Slaughter, too big, and I was just like, man, just not going to get Sarge, am I? But this figure we got is really well done, too. It's not just it's a chump version of Sergeant Slaughter. You guys are going to pay for it. He's got the removable hat. He's got removable sunglasses. He's got the whistle. He's also got multiple swappable hands, which is great. We've only seen like a handful of Joes who have different hands that can swap out. But Sarge can grab people. He can punch them out. He can shoot with his blaster. He's got so many cool ways to display him that you can do so much. And it's like, every G.I. Joe should come with these now, these swappable hands. That's the way we should get going forward with this line. And he's really well done. And then he's got the bonus Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe figure, which is great. That was just fun to see. And just like, hey, this is him from when he's selling the toys. So then I started going, well, maybe this is him in the G.I. Joe mythos now, where he's like acting as a pitchman, but he's actually going out and fighting Cobra too. So I really loved how this figure turned out. He's exactly what I wanted in a Classified Series Sergeant Slaughter. And I'm so happy we got him. So now I'm hoping we get the rest of the Renegades, we get the Rawhides, we get the Triple T Tank, the Warthog, so many different looks for Sergeant Slaughter, so many factions, so many different ways we can get Sergeant Slaughter and his allies and his factions, his squads, and his vehicles, hopefully, because I don't think they should be HasLab. I think they could work within the confines of a regular retail release. Hopefully that's something that Hasbro is already working on so we can get some more vehicles added to the line for the Joe side. So let me break that down for you one more time so you can tell me how wrong or how right I am you think I am with my list. Honorable mentions: Tiger Force Outback, Retro Gung-Ho. Number 10, Dr. Mindbender. Number 9, Croc Master. 8, Stalker. Number 7, the Crimson Twins, Tomax and Zaymont. Number 6, the Alley Viper. 5, the Cobra Bat. 4, Storm Shadow. 3, Spirit. 2, Serpentor. And my number 1 of 2022 is Sergeant Slaughter. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you broke these guys down, how you arrange your top 10. So let me know what you think, and make sure to drop a comment with your breakdown of your top 10 list. And I'm especially curious for those of you who did buy Serana, Dusty, and Crimson Guard, where you rank them in your top 10. Thank you as always for watching. This episode of Laos Figure Files has been filed.